NFL homestand was any indication, your Rangers will be in the thick of the wild card race through the final 6 games. Yesterday's thumping of the Astros was a complete team effort and hopefully has set the tone for the sprint to the finish. HOU Darvish gets the start against a team he's had plenty of success against, and the Rangers need another strong start. The Rangers and the Houston Astros go at it again next. It is another gorgeous night here at Rangers Ballpark in Arlington, a duplicate of last night's game. And the Rangers hope the offense duplicates the performance and that HOU Darvish does the same against the Astros that Derek Holland did last night. It's game 2, the Rangers and the Houston Astros. Welcome in, everyone, along with Tom Green, Steve Busby. Glad you could join us on this evening of Ranger baseball. And we have the Astros and Rangers coming up for you. HOU Darvish has been a master over the Astros, and go back to his August 12th start, Tom. He was as good as we have seen him with 15 strikeouts.
Yeah, he really was, Buzz. He's done that a couple of times against the Astros. In fact, this year, 12 or 13 times, he struck out double-digit batters. The Astros have borne the brunt of it, though. On August 12th, he pitched 8 innings, only gave up 1 hit and 1 run, and struck out 15. Now, he's got a pretty tough act to follow. Yesterday, Derek Holland shut the Astros out. I don't know if Darvish is going to shut the Astros out, but he needs to pitch a good game today. Rangers need to win a ball game.
Well, he's got the blueprint for a shutout if he can do exactly what Derek did last night. And the Rangers have a blueprint for adjusters so runs. Led by Alex Rios, a cycle last night. Interesting to see what the big guy has in store for us tonight. We'll have the starting lineup from the first pitch for you coming up right after this on Fox Sports Southwest. By the Build Ford Tough sales event at your Texas Ford dealer. Ford is the best in Texas. By AT&T Ubers TV. Check availability at 1-800-PICK-ATT. Rethink possible. By Progressive. Visit Progressive.com today. And by Captain Phillips in theaters October the 11th. The Rangers have taken the field on a beautiful evening here in North Texas. HOU Darvish to the hill, and before we get underway, let's head down to the field. Emily Jones is waiting for us. Em?
Well, Buzz, as you well know, a lot of good vibes after last night's 12-0 win over the Astros. But momentum, as you well know, is not easily quantified. So I asked Ian Kinsler to help me put a value on momentum.
It's actually very important in this game. I think the bigger the game, the more important momentum is. I think, whenever you're able to capture the lead at any point in the game, I think that it definitely gives momentum to your team, and you want to keep that basically through the end of the game. So, it's important to get the first amount of momentum, I guess you can say, or the first strike, and try to maintain it as long as you can.
Ian Kinsler with tonight's Geico quote of the game, and I found it interesting that Ian was only talking about momentum within a game. I asked him if there was anything to momentum carrying over from game to game, and he said, absolutely not. Not in my opinion. In my opinion, not anywhere in this clubhouse. Each day is a new day, and each game is a new game, guys.
All right, Em, thank you. Well, I would put a little caveat to that. You're much more inclined to come to the ballpark happy if you played well the night before and won, than if you've gotten beaten pretty badly. Now we'll take a look at the Astros lineup tonight. We'll face HOU Darvish. Jonathan Villar leads off. He is the shortstop. Jose Altuve is next, followed by Mark Krause. Matt Dominguez bats cleanup. He's at third. The DH is Chris Carter. Trevor Crowe is in right field tonight. Red Wallace at first. Carlos Corporan again catching. And Brandon Barnes bats ninth and plays center field.
And we'll take a look at the progressive scouting report for HOU Darvish. 13-9 on the season. His ERA is 2.81. That's the fourth best ERA in the league. 1.98 opponent's batting average. That leads the American League. 4 starts against Houston this year. 3-1 with a 2.73 ERA.
And the first ball swinging. That is Villar, who grounds sharply. Nice play by Elvis Andrus. So one pitch for Darvish and one out. Villar grounding out to his counterpart. It'll bring up Jose Altuve. We'll take a look at the rest of the Ranger defense behind Darvish tonight. Jetri, Martin, and Rios left, center, and right. Moreland at first. Kinsler and Andrews up the middle. Beltre at third. Giovanni Soto is catching HOU Darvish here tonight. The umpiring crew. Paul Emmel calling the balls and strikes. Chris Conroy at first. Gary Darling, the crew chief, at second. And over at third is Jerry Meals. Jose Altuve taking ball one, ahead of the count now. 0 for 12 in his career against HOU Darvish. Altuve, you can see, having another solid year at 283. Ground ball wide of third. That's into left field. A base hit. Altuve, who had a base hit in his first at bat last night off Derek Holland, does the same thing here tonight against Darvish. So 1 on, 1 out. And Mark Krause coming up. So whatever suspense fans might have felt about HOU Darvish taking no-hitters late into ball games, that's gone. Shutout's not gone, though. That's a big thing.
Well, Altuve's been swinging a pretty hot bat in the month of September. He got a pretty good first pitch to hit. If you're going up there looking for the first fastball to hit, that was a pretty good one to hit.
Mark Krause, who did not play in last night's game, left-handed hitter, batting .216, 4 home runs, and 13 driven in. Altuve, a pretty good base stealer at first, and Darvish is high with ball one. Krause, as you can see, 6 at-bats against Darvish, and he's fared pretty well. 2 for 6. Altuve, a modest lead at first as Darvish sets. He fires a cutter, it looked like, that came in the back door to even the count. Stolen base leaders see Altuve at 5th in the American League, behind Elvis, who has a career high 40, Alex Rios a career high 39 for the Rangers. Now Mark Krause waiting. Krause, along with the 2 hits and 6 at bats, has driven in a couple against HOU Darvish. Inside, cutter darting off the corner. 2-1 now. Saw Krause, one of the Astros that has really been swinging the bat well. Astros coming off a series that saw them really scuffle against Cleveland. They lost 4 straight there. They have lost 10 in a row at the Astros. They are 51 and 106. There goes Altuve. The pitch is swung on and foul tip. And as far as Darvish and Soto were concerned, that was a fortunate foul tip because Altuve had second base stolen easily.
Yeah, I don't know that Giovanni would have even thrown on that ball.
Wouldn't have made much sense to throw.
Well, probably would have, though.
Well, the count is 2-2 now. Out of play to the left.
Well, you popped that fastball at 95. Didn't see many in Tampa in the mid-90s. It was command, though, that really bothered him in Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
He walked 6 batters in 5 innings. Just really struggled with his command. Somehow he got through 5 innings with the help of a couple caught stealings by Giovanni in the second inning, a couple of double plays. But he actually has probably pitched better in 10 or 12 of his losses than he did in that particular win.
Check swing on the breaking ball, and the count is now full. Well, with 1 out, we would imagine that Altuve will be off and moving. Krause to be followed by Matt Dominguez, the third baseman. Yeah, that was Yu Darvish. That may have been the worst game we have seen him pitch from the standpoint this year, anyway. The standpoint of commanding the strike zone.
Yeah,
never had command.
You don't expect to win a game walking 6 guys against Tampa Bay with their pitching in 5 innings.
Altuve on the move. The pitch is inside, ball 4. So a single and a walk, 2 aboard for Matt Dominguez. Pretty good job by Krause of laying off a 3-2 breaking ball, which has become a staple for Yu Darvish. And it may be that scouting report on Darvish has gotten around the league a bit.
Yeah, I think it probably has, Buzz. You know, every team has advanced scouts. The other thing that Houston is seeing him for the 5th time this year. So the hitters that have played in those games have seen quite a bit of him. They have a pretty good idea what he likes to do. If he executes his pitches, it won't matter.
Right.
That's the bottom line.
And Dominguez takes the first pitch high for ball 1. And Matt Dominguez, remember a ball game down in Houston and had a couple of home runs off Darvish. And Dominguez swinging the bat well of late. You see a 350 average over the last 5 ball games. That's outside. 2 balls and no strikes now.
Dominguez had a game in Houston where he had a couple home runs against Darvish, so he's definitely seen Darvish and had some success against him, at least in that particular game he did.
2-0 pitch is low. It's 3 balls and no strikes. Dominguez eyeballing that, and Darvish, who got the first out on 1 pitch, has now thrown an additional 12 pitches and has not gotten another out. His runners at first and second. 3-0 the count to Dominguez. Now 3-1. Altuve at second, Krause at first. Altuve with the single, Krause with the walk. Darvish checking them. The 3-1 pitch. Pop foul behind home plate. And that is back right below us in the club limit. Well, the count has gone full to Dominguez. Matt Dominguez hitting in the cleanup spot tonight. He'll be followed by the designated hitter, Chris Carter. A large crowd out here on Yu Darvish bobblehead night. Payoff pitch on the way. Outside, ball 4, and that loads him up for Carter. Now, unlike what Derek Holland was able to do last night, Mike Maddox would tell you, Darvish not able to get ahead of the hitters and then make a pitch for the out pitch. Derek Holland last night was extremely good about getting ahead of hitters throughout the ball game. Only had 1 walk in that game.
I'm not sure exactly what he ended up with, Buzz, balls and strikes, but it was pretty close to 70% strikes, wasn't it, yesterday?
Yeah, it was over 70%.
Over 70?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was pounding the strike zone with all his pitches, fastball, slider, you name it.
Now here's Carter, and the big breaking ball is outside to him. 1 ball, no strikes. Carter at 225. He is the team leader with 29 home runs and 79 driven in. Base is full of Astro teammates here in the first. Towering fly ball down the left field line. Gentry in the corner right at the wall. That ball's coming back to him. He makes the catch. Tagging at third, Altuve. He will score. And the Astros, on a long sacrifice fly, take a 1-0 lead here in the first inning.
Carter almost hit that ball about 500 feet. He just got underneath it, skied it. Looked like it was going to be a pop-up medium distance in left field and went all the way to the warning track and almost to the wall. So he hit it on the good part of the bat, but fortunately he didn't center it. It'd still be going.
A tremendously strong man. You got a pretty good idea of it there. Very short stroke, and he's, I guess, bemoaning the fact that he didn't get a little less air underneath it.
Well, he's finally getting a chance to play on a regular basis. He's on a team that can afford to do that. Prior to this, he'd play for 100 at bats and not get a chance. So he's still got a long way to go to be consistent. He's only hitting 225, but power's there for sure.
Yep.
If he can build off of this season and improve, who knows?
Well, he's driven in his 80th run of the year, and for a team that's second to last in runs scored, that's pretty impressive. Here's Trevor Crow down on the count 0-1. And he rolls over on one out to second base. Kinsler flips it on to first. That'll do it. The Astros, though, get on the board first. They get a run on a hit and leave two after a half inning as the Astros won. The Rangers coming up on Fox Sports Southwest. Lead 1-0. Rangers coming about here in the bottom of the first inning. Rangers starting lineup brought to you by Chicken Express. Ian Kinsler leads off. Elvis Andrus is next, then Alex Rios. Adrian Beltre bats cleanup. A.J. Brzezinski is DHing tonight. Giovanni Soto, the catcher, is sixth. Mitch Moreland, Craig Gentry, and Leonis Martin are the bottom three in the Ranger order.
We'll check the Auto Nation scouting report for Brad Peacock. 5-5. Don't be fooled by the 5.24 ERA. This kid's got good stuff. 3.92 ERA on the road. Much worse than that at home. ERA over 6 on the road. August 10th against the Rangers, he had a no decision. 6 innings, 3 hits, and 1 earned run. He's got a fastball that we've seen reach the middle 90s, a good curveball. He's a strong kid that they got in a trade that has a pretty good future based on what we've seen anyway.
Kinsler takes the pitch down and away. It's 1 ball and 1 strike. Yeah, Peacock came over, part of the trade that sent Jed Lowry to the Oakland A's. Bruce Carter came in that trade, and Astros have benefited from that breaking ball, and that catches the inside corner. 1-2 to Kinsler. Ian at 274, a dozen home runs, He has driven in 67. Coming off a 2-for-4 game last night. Count evens at 2 balls and 2 strikes. 5-game hitting streak coming into play tonight for Ian. Now the 2-2. Swung on, foul tip into the glove of Corcoran, who hangs on, and Kinsler is down on strikes, 1 away. We'll take a look at the Astros defense behind Brad Peacock tonight. Mark Krause in left field, Barnes in center, Crow is in right. Wallace to start at first base, Altuve and VR up the middle. Pat Dominguez at third, Carlos Corcoran again behind the plate. And Brad Peacock is on the hill.
Peacock started out the season 4th in the Astros rotation. Got sent to the minor leagues, got recalled, pitched in relief, got sent back to the minor leagues. But after he was recalled in August, he's pitched very well. Since that time, he's 4-2 in 8 starts with an ERA of about 3.5. So again, don't be fooled by the ERA over 5. He's pitching much better than that now.
Breaking ball, Elvis tried to check his swing, and it's a strike anyway, 1-1.
Good slider.
Now Peacock with a good slider and also a very good curveball that he will feature more often than not to left-handed hitters. 1-1 pitch to Elvis. Now 2-1. Andrus, a 3-hit game last night and currently batting .273. That's his highest average since way back in the early part of May. Now 2-2. Elvis kind of shaking his head. I don't know if it was at the call or with his thinking. That pitch pretty much in the middle of the plate.
I think he was maybe disappointed that he wasn't ready to swing at it.
Now the 2-2. Oh, tapper right back to Peacock. Lob on to first. Andrus retired. There are 2 gone on a strikeout and a tapper back to the box.
Elvis saw the pretty good slider, and the last pitch was a really good curveball. So he combines both pitches, slider and a curveball.
Peacock, a 25-year-old. And Tom told you he's been up and down, but since the last time when he came up in early August, he has been a mainstay in this Astros rotation. Well, here's the cycle man. Last night, 4 at-bats for Alex Rios. He had a double, an infield single, a home run, and a triple. 7th time in Ranger history that they've had a player hit for the cycle, and Alex Rios, the latest to join him. There is that list. Odubie McDowell was the first Ranger to do that back in 1985. Mark Teixeira, Gary Matthews Jr., Ian Kinsler. Who could forget Benji Molina in Boston? And then, of course, last year it was Adrian Beltre right here in Rangers ballpark in Arlington. This year, Alex Rios.
Yeah, for me, Benji Molina will have the all-time cycle. I'll remember most of them, but I'll never forget that one.
Going outside, 2-2 now to Rios. Especially the triple, the one that got him the cycle.
The last one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the, I don't know, top how many, but one of the best days at the ballpark I can remember watching that.
Rios lines one to right field, but Kroll, backing up a couple of steps, makes the grab, and the Rangers are sent down in order in the first inning by Brad Peacock. On to the second we go. Astros 1, Rangers nothing. Fox Sports Southwest.
Guys night out right here for you guys from Fort Worth enjoying the game, looking for another Rangers win, a community corner this evening. We're talking about the United Way. You know, United Way is all about changing lives in our community, and there will be a United Way Day on October 1st, and you can help. To find out more information, log on to UnitedWayTarrant.org or UnitedWayDallas.org. Leave the old ball and chain at home?
Absolutely.
All right, Buzz.
All right, Noxie. Careful out there now. Don't want to get anybody in trouble. Red Wallace leading off the bottom third of the Astros order to face Yu Darvish here in the second. Wallace a rip and a miss, and Darvish ahead of the count now at 1-2. Wallace 222 over the season, 13 home runs, 34 RBI, and 2 out of 10 in his career against Yu Darvish. Wallace asking for a little more time to get ready as Darvish was chomping at the bit to get going. Now the 1-2 pitch. There's that big slow hook. And it's 2 balls and 2 strikes. Darvish gave up a run on a hit and a couple of walks in the first inning. Right-hander is ready, and the 2-2. Got him swinging. Wallace with the strikeout. And Darvish racks up his first punch out of the night. And for Wallace, that's the 7th time he has struck out in 11 at-bats against Yu Darvish.
Yeah, it's probably happened in all different ways. That was a hard breaking ball that Wallace couldn't lay off of, obviously down out of the strike zone. But a lot of the swings and misses that Yu gets for strikeouts are breaking balls that are out of the strike zone. They're hard to lay off of.
So here's Carlos Corporan, the switch hitting catcher. Showed you that shot of him getting the only hit against Yu Darvish last time they hooked it up down in Minute Maid Park back on the 12th of August. Corporan, the only hit in that ball game. He came with 1 out in the 8th inning. Darvish would end up going into the 9th. Couldn't quite finish the ball game, but ended up allowing only the 1 hit and 1 run. 1-0 pitch. A ball and a strike. Corporan against the Rangers in his career, a .238 batter. A little tardy with that swing, and it's 1-2.
A little different when you get the fastball after a couple of breaking balls. If he saw that on the first pitch, he might have been ready for it, just like he was in Houston when he hit the home run. More of a fastball count, you're a little bit more ready for it, but after the breaking balls, it's an entirely different approach to that fastball.
Now Darvish back to the 1-2. He misses outside. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Darvish last time out, despite not pitching at his best, was still able to snap a long losing streak for himself. 4 consecutive losing outings. And Corporan fouls it away to the left. We'll try it again at 2-2. Darvish with the 5 innings down in Tampa. Gave up just 2 runs, but 6 walks and 5 strikeouts, or 5 hits. He was in trouble most of the night, as Tom told you. A couple of caught stealings in 1 inning, and then a couple of double plays helped him out. Corporan rounds out to second base as Kinsler fires on to first. That is out number 2. 2 up, 2 away, and here's the number 9 man, Brandon Barnes.
Just like Derek Holland last night, Yu Darvish will go over 200 innings this season for the first time. Derek did it last night. Did it in style last night. Derek will have another start. A chance to have 215 innings or so.
Pitch fouled off to the right. Yeah, as a matter of fact, Yu Darvish with that last out just went over 200. 200 and 1/3 right now. And he got close last year, too, and that's the consistency of what the Rangers had hoped for when they signed him out of Japan. guy that can come over, eat up innings, and win a lot of ball games for you. 0-1 pitch. And Barnes, like Corcoran, a little late with a swing on the fastball. 0-2 the count. Brandon Barnes struggling of late. As you can see, 0 for his last 9 trips to the plate. 1-2 now. But this little slowdown is only that for Barnes. He's still at 298 in his last 20 games. Got him swinging. Well, Darvish gets a couple of strikeouts, his first 2 of the night. Astros down 1. We played an inning and a half. It's the Astros 1, the Rangers nothing. Middle third of the Ranger order. Adrian Beltre, A.J. Przinsky, and Giovanni Soto to face Brad Peacock. And Beltre slams the first pitch to center, but that is right at Brandon Barnes, out number 1. Well, Beltre going up there looking for a pitch to drive, and he did, but didn't get it quite enough airborne to get it out of here. Now A.J. Przinsky will face Peacock. A.J. 275, 17 home runs, and 66 driven in. First pitch to him is a knee-high strike. A.J. getting the partial night off tonight. Ron Washington electing to go with Giovanni Soto, who has now caught the last 4 Darvish outings. And in 3 of those, Przinsky has been the DH. 0-2 the count. Przinsky has swung the bat well against the Astros this year. You can see in 12 games he's had 3 home runs. He's hit .340. Check swing. The appeal down to third. No swing. And this is Jerry Meals. A ball and 2 strikes. A.J. scored a couple of times last night. Went 2 for 5. A single and a double. Rangers pounded out 14 hits and plated 12 runs last night in the whitewashing of the Astros. This one pulled on 2 hops out to Altuve, the second baseman. Throws out Przinsky. So 2 up, 2 gone. Now Giovanni Soto. Well, tonight's AT&T Twitter poll. I'd like to ask you now, as a fan, which potential free agent would you like to see re-sign with the Rangers? Now, this is as a fan. We'll send these opinions along to John Daniels. So in the offseason, he'll know which way to go. Nelson Cruz, hashtag FS Cruz. We'll get back to the other guys in just a second as Soto takes a strike. Matt Garza, hashtag FS Garza, Nathan, or Pierzynski. Go to Twitter and the appropriate hashtag FS and their last name, and we will tabulate the results, get back to you later on in the game. 1-1 the count to Soto. There's that big curveball that drops in. It's 1-2. That even forced Giovanni to say, yeah, nice pitch. Peacock to the wind. He missed outside, and their big breaking ball. It is 2-2. Soto in his last 9 ball games, 375, a couple of home runs. He has really been swinging the bat well. It seems like every game that he's played, he's hit a couple of balls right on the nose. Like that one. That's going to fall in for a base hit to left field. Well, maybe even better than that one. But
that wasn't quite on the nose, but it's a base hit.
That was placed well. That might have got him on the cheek instead of the nose. But it is the first Ranger hit, the first Ranger base runner with 2 outs here in the second. And it'll bring up Mitch Moreland.
Kind of down and away. Giovanni hit a little bit off the end of the bat. But nevertheless, it's a line drive over short for a base hit.
Like they always say, when you can hit, you can hit. Balls are going to fall in for you. Hit him like that. Now here's Moreland. Mitch at 234. And he takes the pitch a little bit wide for ball 1. Mitch last night 1 out of 2. You see the numbers, the career highs in both home runs at 23 and RBI at 59. Had a sacrifice fly last night to drive in his 59th. Soto at first with 2 outs. Pulled hard but foul outside first, and it evens the count at 1-1. Remember when Mitch came back, as you look at the latest numbers, 1 out of 14, but when Mitch came back off the disabled list, he was hitting 288 at the time, and since then, in 82 ball games, that average has dropped all the way down to its current 234 level. And as a result of Mitch hitting just 185, pitch fouled away, is now down in the count, a ball and 2 strikes. Moreland back in, going to cover in that hole up at the back end of the batter's box. Peacock not straying far from the pitching rubbers. He takes the sign from Corporate. Tried to get the fastball in and did a pretty good job of it. Mitch fouling it back. Peacock a check of first. Another 1-2 pitch. Called strike 3. A knee-high inside corner. A good fastball. And caught looking. Mitch Moreland is gone. So are the Rangers. No runs a hit. They strand 1. We're going to the third. Astros 1. Rangers nothing. Yu Darvish. Astros on top 1-0. Joining us, as always, on the Tuesday home games here, Nolan Ryan, Ranger CEO. Nolan, thanks again for taking the time to be with us. You know, I guess in spring training, if somebody had said, okay, the last week of the season, you're finishing up at home, you've got a chance to be the wild card in the American League, you wouldn't have turned that down at that point, would you?
No. If you have a shot like that, you say, I'll take that, because you know it's a long season, anything can happen. So, you know, if you're in that position, you're glad to be there. Now, obviously, getting there like we have, we don't feel as good about it as we would in spring training, obviously.
Very nice play by Adrian Beltre. No, you're right. And, you know, I think also the bar around here has been set a little bit higher than what we were accustomed to several years ago.
Well, I think you're right. You know, I think we all have high expectations. And coming out of spring training, we felt really good about our ball club. And so you just don't know how the season's going to play out. And you know, some people are going to have career years and other people are going to have subpar years. And you're going to have injuries. And so it's a long year, and a lot of factors come into play, so you really don't know. So when you're in a position like we are, you have to feel like that, hey, there's a lot of clubs that love to trade positions with you, and so you have to try to make the best of it.
Well, after a great August, Nolan, what surprised you or what disappointed you in September? The Rangers weren't able to follow it up with a good month.
Well, I really think it came down to the fact that we just couldn't get a big hit when we needed to, and I think that was the thing that probably hurt us the most in September, is that offensively as a club, we just had a shutdown that you know, we'd get maybe a guy or two in scoring position, but we couldn't advance them, and it ran throughout the ball club. And so normally with our ball club in the past, if somebody went into a little bit of a tailspin, somebody else would step up and kind of pick up the slack, and that just hadn't happened this year. But it's also, we have a little different type of ball club, the fact that in the past we've had some guys that can hit the ball out of the ballpark and change the flow of a game, and that just hadn't happened here in September.
Now, while you were talking there, too, Nolan, Adrian Beltre, a couple of great plays. And here's a guy right in the middle of the order that has been trying to carry the ball club, and maybe that was asking too much of himself by Adrian. It looks like he's trying to settle back down and get something done the last week of the season.
Well, I really think what happened, Adrian was having such a great year and had such a big impact on the success of the ball club. And when we started dropping off offensively, I think he tried to start doing more and trying to pick up the load, and it just, you know, I think it worked against him. And I think we all are accustomed to seeing that, where when guys start trying to get out of their comfort level and try to start doing more, then I think it really puts them in a tough situation.
2-1 is the count to Mark Krause. And now 2-2. Well, that kind of feeling, though, Nolan, that's pretty normal, isn't it, for a guy that's in Adrian's position? Even though he's got all the experience in the world, it's still a guy that expects a lot out of himself, will try and do more sometimes than he's capable.
It's a natural tendency, and I think you see it in veteran players because they know how important it is this time of year and the position the ball club's in. And so I just think it's a natural tendency to do that. Now, we'll see pitchers do that too. They'll go out and get out of their comfort zone and try to do more than they normally do, and they'll get out of sync. So, you know, I just think it's a natural tendency with competitive people.
We're just getting a look at that replay. Ian Kinsler almost got his head taken off by that tough hop coming up off his wrist.
I hope it hit the heel of his glove and not his arm.
It hit the tape on his left wrist. He's got some black tape up above his glove, and the ball took a kind of hop and missed his glove, unfortunately. Looks like he's okay, though.
Yeah, it's going to be ruled an error. I'm not sure that
that's a pretty rough error right there.
Not sure our official scorers ever tried to catch a ball like that.
No, I don't think so either. I don't think he understands bad hops.
No, 1 on, 2 out. And Matt Dominguez, who walked his first time up, is at the plate. Fouled back. Well, no, I know you were watching, too, the last time that Yu Darvish towed the hill down in Tampa Bay. And probably, Tom and I were talking about it anyway, probably the worst that we've seen him throw. He got results, but is that one of the instances you're talking about where a guy tries to do a little more than he's capable?
Well, I don't know if that happened with you, because that night, he was out of sync, and he didn't have the feel or command for his pitches, but he battled, and that's the thing that you like about somebody that's competitive like that. Even though they're out of their rhythm and stuff, they find a way to keep you in the game, and they battle for you and give you an opportunity to win a ball game.
Darvish with the 0-2 pitch. And that's popped up. Should do it. Elvis coming down and make the catch. That will do it. No hits, an error, and one left. Nolan, thanks very much for joining us. Hope we get a chance to talk to you maybe next Tuesday.
Well, that'd be great with me, guys. I look forward to it.
All right.
All right. Bye.
1-0 Astros. We head to the bottom of the third. Brought to you by the Built Ford Tough Sales Event and by Jack in the Box. Greg Gentry stepping in to start the bottom of the third against Brad Peacock. And the right-hander deals a strike on the outside corner with that slider. Gentry at 265, a couple of home runs, 19 driven in. And he has been hotter than August in North Texas. Swing and a miss, 0-2 the count. Gentry 8 for his last 16 times to the plate. There are those numbers. An RBI, a triple. That covers 4 games. Had a 3-hit game and a 4-hit game in there. Swing and a miss on the slow curveball. Corcoran will toss on down to first. Gentry retired as Peacock gets his 3rd strikeout of the night. As Leos Martin steps up, let's take time for a Mazda game break. Here's Dana Larson. All right, Dana, thank you. The other game, certainly Dana and the crew will keep an eye on that Cleveland White Sox game. Leonys Martin takes high. It's 1 ball and 1 strike. Martin at 259, 8 home runs, 44 driven in. Had 3 RBI last night, a bases loaded double. Fouls that pitch out of play, and the count moves to 1-2.
A couple of shout outs today, Buzz. Charles Richard Smith from Richardson, Texas is 93 years old. and Betty and Wayne McMinn from Duncanville are celebrating their 58th wedding anniversary. Congratulations.
It's fouled away. Still a ball and 2 strikes. Martin 1 for 4 last night. Double his only hit. Falling off a bit of late. Just 3 for his last 19. And batting average has dropped 5 or 6 points lately. High chopper charged by Dominguez. Fields, no throw as he couldn't find the handle. And Leonis Martin with about a 65-foot single. He is aboard.
Yeah, his only chance Dominguez had was if he could get to that ball before it hit the ground. Once it hit the ground, it was all over. If he caught it in the air, then he might have had a shot at Leonis. And he chops it right off home plate. Pitcher can't get it, and once it hit like that, no chance to get the fast runner.
Well, Martin, third on the ball club in stolen bases. At first with 1 out. Top of the order now for the second time through. It's Ian Kinsler. Kinsler struck out in the first. Martin, a pretty good lead. Peacock's pitch hit hard but pulled foul outside third. It is no balls and a strike. Leonis at first, 33 stolen bases. He's been caught 9 times. The Rangers still second in the American League to Kansas City, a team stolen base-wise, 136 for the Rangers. Martin stepping off that lead at first. Kinsler a line drive to right field. Moving to his right, though, Crow. And looked like he might have lost that ball temporarily in the lights as it was coming down. But able to stay with it, make the grab for the second out.
That ball was really hit well, too. Going the other way, right center field, hit it right on the button. Unfortunately, right at the right fielder.
No, 2 outs with Martin still at first. Here's Elvis Andrus, who tapped back to the pitcher in the first inning. Elvis at 273 with the average. Peacock, a long look in. Now the right-hander sets. And he will back off the back of the pitching rubber. Elvis in his last 24 games has hit .357. He has been the team top RBI man and one of the top home run men in this month of September.
That's got to be his best RBI month. He's third in the American League with 17 of them in this month.
That's something.
Yeah, he's been driving the ball. He's getting big hits with men on. He's also hit the ball out of the ballpark a couple of times with men on base.
Yeah. 5 for his last 9 trips to the plate. Martin trying to get a jump at first, see if he can swipe second. And the pitch is low. It's 1 ball and 1 strike. Well, Brad Peacock working to Elvis Andrus. 1 on and 2 out here in the third inning. Astros on top 1-0. As Peacock is ready, Martin leaning towards second. And as Peacock stepped off, Martin had that little false move to second base. It looked like he was trying to get the jump that time. Although, Tom, you mentioned it last night. When we saw the Astros last down in Minute Maid Park, they were throwing out everybody.
They were throwing well. Corcoran's got a good arm. Made a good throw last night.
There goes Martin. The pitch is a strike. The throw to second is late as Corcoran couldn't get a good grip on the ball. And Leonis Martin with his 34th stolen base of the year.
It's hard to tell if Corcoran grabbed that ball and threw it, but if he made the same throw, he might have had a shot. It was a strong throw. He just couldn't get rid of it. It took too long. Couldn't get it out of his glove, and then he couldn't get it out of his hand. When he finally threw it, he threw a strike to second.
Well, the count is 1-2 to Elvis. Martin now at second base. And Corcoran going to go out and have a little chat with Peacock.
Be careful. You take your foot off the bag. Altuve is ready to tag you.
A little conference on the mound. Now that's taken care of. 1-2 the count. Peacock and Carlos Corcoran going over things, as was the shortstop Jonathan Villar. Now the right-hander comes set. A check of second. In the dirt. Nice block by Corcoran. And the count is even. Peacock now at 44 pitches. And so far, 31 strikes, 13 balls. Has been around the strike zone all evening long. See, dealing with a guy, though, it's been pretty hot in these situations. Elvis, a .375 hitter with runners in scoring position. Of late, he has Martin out there at second. Got him swinging. Good sharp breaking ball, and Peacock gets his 4th strikeout of the night. Rangers leave Martin at second after a hit and a stolen base. On to the 4th, 1-0 Houston.
Neil McCoy lives in Longview, Texas, grew up in Jacksonville, Texas, big Ranger fan, and you released Pride today, a tribute to Charlie Pride. Neil, how did all this come about?
He's actually the guy that helped me get my start in 1981. I won a contest up in Dallas, Texas, and I met Charlie, and he took me on the road with him about 6 years through the 80s and let me open the shows. And I just thought it was time. I did some research. I was looking to cut a project, did research, found out no one had ever done a tribute album to Charlie Pride, and I thought, who better than me? Shoot.
That's going to be a great album. That's a great album. Let's go out and get that. Also, you have a big benefit going on in Longview, Texas this week?
I do. Thanks a lot for mentioning it. Yeah, it's called the East Texas Angel Network, a foundation my wife and I started 19 years ago to help children with life-threatening illnesses. And we have a golf tournament, a concert on Saturday night, and it's a big deal. All of East Texas has been great to us for a lot of years.
Well, you're like every Ranger fan right now. Your scoreboard watching right there in left field, and you're watching this, looking for a Ranger run.
Yeah, we need a Ranger run, and we need a White Sox run.
Yeah, we do. And we need some Yankee runs, too. All right, there we go. Thank you, Neil. Good seeing you, Buzz.
All right, Jim, thank you. Well, Chris Carter leading things off for the Astros here in the 4th inning. Darvish has the advantage at 1 ball and 2 strikes, and he fires strike 3 to the outside corner.
That's just not fair. He threw him 3 straight sliders. 2 of them caught the outside corner. And so after you've seen several pitches in the 80s, all of a sudden one in the 90s, and can't quite pull the trigger on it. Right on the outside part of the plate. Pretty nice pitching right there.
Well, 3 strikeouts now for Yu Darvish. 1 away here in the 4th, and Trevor Crowe will come up.
Yeah, Darvish is going to have to be at his best today because Peacock is throwing an excellent game so far for Houston. He's got good assortment of breaking pitches, slider and a curveball. Handcuffing the Rangers so far.
Yeah, and the reports that you gave, Tom, about Peacock throwing well at AAA and then since he came back, very accurate.
Yeah.
He has really looked good.
He sure has.
Crowe, a ground ball to second his first time up there, and takes the pitch high from Darvish. It is 2 balls and no strikes. Before I forget about it, the ground ball that Mark Krause hit in the 3rd inning that was originally ruled an error on Ian Kinsler came up and got him on the wrist. That has been changed to a base hit.
I think that's a good call.
Yeah.
You know, it was a play that you can make, but it was an extremely hard hit ball that took that little hop right at the end and made it a very difficult play.
So no error for Kinsler, and add a hit to the total for the Astros. They now have 2, but they are leading 1-0. Run in the 1st inning against Yu Darvish. Pitch is low. It's 3 balls and a strike to Crowe. Now Darvish walked a couple, but they came back to back in the 1st inning. In danger of walking Crowe here. Brett Wallace, the first baseman, will follow. Crowe, the switch hitter, batting from the left side against the righty Darvish. And ball 4 is high and away. The 3rd walk in 4 innings for Darvish. 1 on, 1 out, and Brett Wallace, who struck out, leading off the 2nd, will step in. Wallace taking his time getting to the batter's box. One of those guys that does a lot of fidgeting and asks the umpire to hold up things a little bit. Not quite the human rain delay, but close. Here's a rip and a miss. There's 0-1. Wallace at 221. 13 home runs, 34 driven in.
Wallace is coming up to the plate, buzzed, wondering to himself, when am I going to get a good pitch to hit?
Yep.
He's swinging, but not many of them are good pitches. Yeah, he laid off it. That's the exact same one he just swung and missed at, so he learned from the first one anyway.
Well, Wallace has had a hard time figuring Darvish out. See, against the Rangers this year, just hitting 111 with 23 strikeouts. And against Darvish, he has 7 strikeouts in 11 trips to the plate. Inside, it's 2-1. Wallace didn't play in last night's game, and with the strikeout in the 2nd is now 0 for his last 8 trips to the plate. Old Porter's club trying to snap a 10-game losing streak. This is their last road trip of the year. Matter of fact, this is their last road series of the year. They will head back to Minute Maid Park, finish things up against the Yankees over the weekend. 2 balls, 1 strike as Darvish sets. There goes the runner from first, and the pitch is chopped foul. Hit and run on. And Wallace not able to put it in play, so Crowe back to first. And the count evens at 2 balls, 2 strikes. Crowe taking a look across the diamond at Dave Tremblay, the 3rd base coach. Dave Clark, the 1st base coach, helping him out with some verbal signs. Wallace again taking a while to get back and ready. Target set inside. There goes the runner again. The throw to second is high. And in with a stolen base is Crowe, but the strikeout of Wallace makes the 2nd out of the inning. Crow now in scoring position with 2 outs for Carlos Corcoran.
The throw is a little bit more difficult with a left-hand hitter up there. You might not be able to make the exact motion that you want to make. Giovanni has to come kind of straight over the top to make this throw. And the ball sails on him a little bit high, but Crow runs pretty well, got a pretty good jump. Would have had to been a perfect throw to have a chance to get him. He's been throwing great.
He's throwing out over 30% of the runners before that last stolen base. Now he's going to throw to second, trying to get back in behind Crow, and it's a little bit low and dug out nicely by Andrews. Well, Giovanni's bound and determined he's going to get him somehow at second base. Not a bad idea.
There's a little bit of daylight between him and second base.
1 ball, no strikes. The count to Corcoran.
Oh, man. That's
Just
an Ian
foul.
Kinsler foul ball right there.
Just a little bit foul. Well, there's one of those cases, Tom, where you're talking about looking for a fastball and getting the head of the bat out. He got the head of the bat out.
He sure did.
He's not going to be late on this one.
That's hooking it about as well as you can hook one right there.
In the dirt. Oh, Soto does a great job of blocking it. Well, Crow stays at second base. 2-1 the count to Corcoran. Astros leading 1-0 here in the 4th inning. Hits are even at 2 tonight. Yu Darvish, along with the 2 base hits, has walked 3 this evening. That has been part of the difference in the ballgame. Sacrifice fly by Chris Carter in the first, the only score of the game. Now the 2-1 pitch. 2-2. Corcoran expanding the strike zone a bit. Corcoran 1 for 2 in last night's game. Crowd getting behind Darvish. The pitch on the way. And Corcoran just able to stay alive as he got the breaking ball. Right off the very end of the bat. Now Giovanni Soto out to talk to Darvish to see what he wants to do. Now Darvish ready to go to work. Soto back down behind home plate, flashes the signs out. The 2-2 pitch is coming from Darvish. Close, strike 3. Nailed down the inside corner. And Corcoran left standing at home plate like a statue. 1 man left on the walk after 3.5. Astros 1, Rangers nothing.
Of the fourth, we talked about Yu Darvish and his stressful innings over the last few outings. Ron Washington says it is something that he is still getting used to.
I think the stress is a little more here in the United States than it was in Japan because, he was a superstar over there. He's still trying to build that resume here. So sometimes when things don't go right, as I always say, this guy got a ton of pitches, but in Tampa, nothing he tried worked, so he had to grind. And I don't expect that tonight. He's always been able, when one pitch isn't working or two pitches isn't working, he can go to something else. And tonight will be no different. I just hope that he finds his rhythm.
And guys, Wash reiterating basically what y'all said, that in that win probably didn't have the stuff that he had in some of the losses that he suffered throughout the course of this season. We're seeing some grinding here tonight as well.
All right, Em, thank you. Yeah, got a little more to work with, I think, tonight, but can't swing the bats for the guys. He's locked in a low-scoring game once again. Alex Rios starting off the Ranger fourth inning. Rios, Beltre, and Brzezinski. And Alex gets fisted, a little fly ball to right field. Coming on is Crow. Time to get there as the ball hung up for him. That is out number one.
Yeah, one thing that kind of worries you about the score of this game is that Darvish has already lost 4 1-0 games this year, and that's the score right now. So somewhere along the line, Rangers are going to have to score, eliminate that possibility. In 2 of those games that he lost 1-0, he struck out 10. A guy working on his water right there.
Got to stay hydrated. Yep. Yeah, Beltre takes a strike. Adrian lined to center field his first time up. A young lady who very casual dress tonight, coming out to the ballpark. 1 ball and 1 strike. Beltre, as you can see, now at .316 for the year. The 1-1 is in the dirt. 2 balls and a strike. Beltre with his 89th run driven in last night. He had a sacrifice fly. Tough night, though, for Beltre. He's 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts. Rip and a miss here. It's 2-2.
Yeah, Peacock has good stuff. It looks like he's got the kind of fastball. It's 92, 93 that gets in on the hitters quick. Maybe they don't pick it up really well. And then he's got the 2 breaking balls that are very good.
Pitch all the way to the backstop, and it fills the count. So Beltre trying to get aboard with 1 out. He'll be followed by the DH tonight, A.J. Brzezinski.
Well, Peacock was drafted and came up with the Washington team, then went to the A's in a trade, and then the trade that you mentioned, Buzz, came over here from the A's. He was in the trade for Gio Gonzalez when Gio Gonzalez went from the A's to Washington. They got a number of good players. Tommy Malone, Derek Norris, their catcher. Peacock, who would have been one more good young pitcher, and they had so many of them, they felt like they could afford to trade him. And Jed Lowry's been their shortstop and hit in the middle of their lineup all year, so that was a good trade for everybody.
And the pitch low and away. Beltre takes the walk. He is aboard with 1 out. Brzezinski coming up. Well, fans, you can connect with the Rangers on the web without even leaving your online neighborhood. Get exclusive Ranger content and breaking news by following Texas Rangers on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+. Be the first to get updates and show your Rangers pride by liking us and following us today. The first walk of the night issued by Brad Peacock. 1 on, 1 out. A.J. Brzezinski, a ground ball to second, his first time up. Rip and a miss. Got the big curveball. Strike 1. The numbers for A.J. having another very solid offensive year. 17 home runs. That's 3rd most in his career for a single season. 0-1. 0-2.
It's a good curveball, boy. Throws it hard and breaks sharply straight down. From a hitter's perspective, when you've got that breaking ball that's in the 70s, then you can throw a hard slider that doesn't go down as much, goes more across in the mid 80s, along with a 2-3 mile an hour fastball. It's a pretty good complement of pitches.
There's that curveball again, so not afraid to throw 3 in a row. Got that in a good spot to Brzezinski from a pitcher standpoint. And A.J. able to lay off it. It's 1 ball and 2 strikes. A.J. has 1 hit in his career against Brad Peacock, and that was a home run. Slowly hit out towards second. No double play possibility, so Altuve fires on to first. Brzezinski retired into scoring position as Adrian Beltre now with 2 outs. And Giovanni Soto will come up. Soto and a single to left field with 2 outs in the second inning. And another similar result here would probably get the Rangers even in this ball game. Astros leading 1-0. Hits are even in the game at 2. And a good hack at that high fastball and fouled it off the mask of Carlos Corporan. 0-1. Corporan, you remember, had to go on the concussion disabled list. He was hit by a foul tip, very much like that when the Rangers played the Astros back in August down in Houston. Spent almost a month on the disabled list. Corporan. Max Stassi, one of the backup catchers, just came off the disabled list from a concussion. Late swing and a miss. Good fastball. It's 0-2 to Soto. I've had a lot of catchers tell me that I gave him a headache, but not in the same context, I don't think.
The masks have come a long way since we played, Buzz, for the catcher. I'm sure they're a lot safer, but if you take one off the mask in the right way, it doesn't matter. It's still going to cause you some problems.
Ground ball to the right side. That's through for a base hit. Beltre will score. The throw coming from Crow is not in time. Beltre able to score. Soto, a little roller through the right side, and the Rangers have tied it. It is 1-1.
Well, it wasn't much, just a little ground ball inside the first base bag. First baseman was playing over. Brett Wallace towards second. So a pretty big hole between him and first base. And Giovanni was able to roll it right by the fielder and right by the bag. Hit it off the end of the bat. Turns out to be a big hit, though. Scores the Rangers' first run. Won't be a 1-0 game against Yu Darvish today.
Sometimes all the statistical analysis and the resulting shifts don't pay off. And that was a case where the overshift to the left really hurt the Astros. Good pitch, well located, at least where they wanted it to, and Soto foiled the whole thing. Oh, a 1-1 ball game now. The Rangers have come back, and Mitch Moreland will try to untie it. Soto, by the way, driving his 20th run of the year. Moreland called out on strikes his first time up. Takes ball 1, a bit low. Astros again with Moreland up there have a pretty exaggerated shift on with the shortstop VR on the first base side of second. And out in shallow right field, Jose Altuve in the dirt. And the count moves to 2-0. Elvis Andrus talking to Adrian Beltre, and Beltre trying to explain things. Elvis, and this is the way it's supposed to be.
Elvis is not going to win that argument.
No,
I don't care who's right or wrong, but he's not going to win.
Now 3-0 to Mitch. So Peacock extremely careful to Moreland. Has fallen behind. 3 balls and no strikes. Mitch trying to get aboard and join Giovanni Soto on base for Craig Gentry. Wouldn't be surprised if Mitch had the green light here on 3-0. Got a good fastball to hit. Peacock is ready. He had the green light, fouled back a fastball. 3-1. Rangers a run on a walk and a hit in this inning. They have tied the game at 1. Peacock set. And a ground ball slowly hit out to second. Altuve has to charge from shallow right field. Throws out Moreland. And that'll do it. But the Rangers get even. They get a run on a hit and lead 1. On to the 5th we go. Rangers 1, Astros 1. Right here on Fox Sports Southwest for Chevy Hometown Kids. It's not about the score, it's about the experience. A lot of kids in attendance out here tonight, and as we go to the 5th inning, and joining us as always on our Fox Sports Southwest game, Mark McLemore, co-host of Rangers Live before and after Ranger ball games. Mac, a little different ball game tonight than what we saw in last night's ball game.
A lot different. A lot different. I think by now it was probably 6 or 7 to nothing.
Yeah, I think so.
A little different pitching tonight, too. Seeing a little bit different pitcher.
Darvish goes to work, fires a strike to Brandon Barnes, starting things off. Now, nice to see you, Darvish, settle down after what could have been a very rocky first inning had he not gotten the final couple of outs.
Yeah, that was a nice piece of pitching. I mean, he worked himself into some trouble, but being able to work out of it, as you know, is key. So he didn't let the wheels fall off, and he very could have easily done that, especially if the big fella Carter had gotten a hold of one.
He almost did. He got a hold of it. It just went straight up in the air. That thing almost went up in the upper deck, it looked like.
0-2 to Barnes. Now a ball and 2 strikes. Now, Darvish appears to have been able to make the adjustments tonight that he wasn't able to make down in Tampa for whatever reason.
So. And that's what it's about. You guys know, making the adjustments. You've got to make adjustments. If something's not working for you, you got to try something else.
That's what Brandon Barnes is thinking to himself right now. I got to try something else. Just watching stuff isn't working.
The last 4 outs have been strikeouts. He dropped the breaking ball about belt high, right down the middle of the plate, but it still fooled him.
That's 3 straight punch-outs and 6 in the game for HOU Darvish. 1 out, back to the top of the order now. For the 3rd time, it'll be Jonathan VR, the shortstop, to face Darvish. VR running up to bunt, drops the bat.
He was going to deaden it.
You know, I've heard of trying to drop the head of the bat on the ball, but I never.
What was he doing?
Like
That's exactly what
trying to deaden the ball.
Deaden the ball, yeah. If you're not holding it in your hands and the ball hits the bat just in midair, then there's not a whole lot of force behind it to push it out there. I hadn't seen that in a long time.
I'll tell you what, you got to be good to do that. You ever seen anybody do it?
Brett Butler used to do it
Did
a little bit, yeah. But Brett Butler's probably the best punter I've ever seen.
Yeah.
He was in. Beltre could be right there, probably 5 feet in, and he'd still drop it right there on the cut of the grass and beat it out. He could do all kinds of things.
Pitch in the dirt. I don't think I recall anybody doing this. Although you're talking about good bunters. Rod Carew, when Tom and I were playing, was as good as I ever saw. Yeah. He could bunt the ball off the end of the bat and deaden it that way.
Yes.
That's a little tough to do.
Rod taught Gary and I a bunch of tricks.
Did he?
Bunting, yeah. Bunting with one hand.
Yeah.
Hold the bat all the way up at the barrel, and you just have maybe 2 or 3 inches of barrel left, and we'd stand there in the cage and just bunt with one hand and drop it and guide it.
Huh.
That was a Rod Carew drill. Incredible.
Yeah, he did some things I don't think he could teach anybody else to do.
He tried to teach me. And as we can tell, it didn't work.
Well, sometimes what those star players could do themselves, you could teach it to the rest of us, but didn't mean we were going to be able to do it.
That's mere mortals, yes.
Another great breaking ball down and in. He's got the strikeout pitch working for him now, Buzz.
That is 4 straight, 7 tonight. And that's the last 5 outs have been via the strikeout. He mixed in a walk in there just to break up the monotony. Here's Jose Altuve. Very rare Altuve gets to 2 strikes, so he's swinging before that. Altuve tonight a single and a run scored in the first. The only run thus far for the Astros. That kind of got him down toward the fist a little bit.
He was expecting that one to break a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
Didn't quite work out his way. He almost lost a couple of knuckles there. That's not good.
1-1. Pulls this one through the hole on the left side. Beltre thought about throwing his glove at it, but chose not to. And Altuve has his second hit. 3rd hit of the night off of HOU Darvish.
Pretty good pitch Altuve just hit. We mentioned that in September he's been swinging the bat very well. It's a hard breaking ball down out of the strike zone. Still golfed it into left field for a base hit.
Nice piece of hitting.
Well, Altuve at first. Remember back in the first inning, he tried a couple of times to swipe second base, but foul balls made him go back. Well, we'll see if he tries to read Darvish again here with 2 outs in the 5th. And Darvish just sending him a little calling card in case the larceny was on his mind. Mark Krause, a walk and an infield single. That single was the hard hit ground ball that took a bad hop off of Ian Kinsler's left wrist last time up. And the first pitch is low for ball 1. Krause checking with Dave Tremblay down at 3rd. See if Altuve might have the green light here with 2 outs. High and tight, and it's 2-0. HOU Darvish having a one-sided conversation out there.
I hope it's one-sided.
Yeah, if he starts getting answers, we got a problem.
Yeah, when he started to say what to that question.
Yeah. And ball 3 is inside. So Krause, who has not been retired tonight, ahead of the count, 3-0. Matt Dominguez will follow if Krause extends this inning.
Buzz, could this be a situation where Darvish is worried about Altuve over there at first base?
I think so. 3-0 pitch. Yeah, and at some point, you realize you're doing it, and you get mad at yourself, and then you're even more out of the strike zone. You get mad at yourself for doing that. See if you can make the right adjustments and come back to get Mark Krause. Altuve with the lead and the 3-1. Outside corner, 3-2. Now with 2 outs now, Altuve will be off and moving with the next pitch. More Porter looking rather stoic over there in the Astros dugout.
He's definitely got that manager stoic look down.
He does. There goes Altuve. Payoff pitch to Krause. Got him swinging. Breaking ball, and Darvish gets his 8th strikeout of the night. Second straight inning he has struck out the side. 1 man left on a base hit. Halfway through the game, we are tied at 1. Each ball club as we head to the bottom of the 5th inning. Craig Gentry, Leonis Martin, and Ian Kinsler, the first 3 Rangers to do the swinging against Brad Peacock. Gentry, a strikeout his first time, but he faced the Astro right-hander. Peacock fires a strike at the knees. Gentry at .263 with the average. Craig Gentry and Mac, Tom and I were talking about as hot as you can possibly be the last couple of weeks. And he continues that way.
You mean like that?
Yeah, like that. Kind of like that. So the Rangers have the guy on base that they would like to have over there. Gentry with a lot of speed and nobody out here in the 5th inning.
First time either team has had the leadoff hitter on so far in this game.
Well, it'll be up to Leonis Martin now. We'll see if Gentry tries to get a jump or if maybe Leonis going to drop down a bunt. Nobody out. A 1-1 game here in the bottom of the 5th inning. Martin had an infield single. He chopped one right off the plate his last time up, and Gentry draws the immediate attention of Brad Peacock.
This is the perfect time to get something going, either a straight steal or a hit and run. Fake bunt and run, something. Something's going to happen.
Now Martin showing bunt. And he gets it down the first base side. Very well done as Peacock has only one play. That's on to Wallace. So the sacrifice goes 1-3 into scoring position is Craig Gentry for the top of the order. And right now, let's take time for a Mazda game break with Dana Larson. Dana? All right, Dana, thank you. We will keep you updated to that score and the Yankees-Tampa Bay score. Last check, the Rays with a 5-0 lead against the Yankees. Here's Kinsler, who is 0 for 2 and a bluff at second base with Altuve breaking in behind Gentry with no throw. Kinsler, a strikeout in the first. He lined sharply to right field his last time up. Big hole on the right side of the infield. As Ian takes a breaking ball for strike one. That's the slider from Peacock. Harder of the two breaking balls. Ian at 273, and he has had one of the top averages almost all year long for the Rangers with runners in scoring position. Peacock's pitch. Base hit to left field. Gentry being waved around third. Up with the ball is Krause. The throw to the plate is cut off. Down to second goes Kinsler, and he's out. Now they executed the cutoff and the throw to second perfectly, but the Rangers score a run as Kinsler comes through again. It's now 2-1 Texas.
Aggressive call by Gary at third base, waving them all the way. Hard hit ball by Kinsler. Ian tried to sneak into second, but they pulled off a nice relay play and a good throw to second to get him. But the Rangers do take the lead on that hard hit ball. Sacrifice bunt got him into scoring position.
Normally you don't see a guy try to score on this. You have the third base coach hold him up because, number one, he had to wait to make sure the ball got through the infield, and it was hit very hard. So one of the fastest guys in the league, Gentry was able to come around and score anyway.
Well, the Rangers, with single runs in each of the last two innings, have taken a 2-1 lead. Now here's Elvis with the bases empty. 0 for 2 for Andrews tonight. 1 ball and 1 strike.
Look at him. Gary's giving it to him all the way, and Gentry's not stopping, not pausing. He knows I'm scoring on this.
That man can run.
He can go.
Wow.
I don't think Gary could have stopped him. I think he was going anyway.
Beltre
Adrian said, hey, I scored. I scored, you scored. What's the difference?
Confessor. Everybody's talking to Adrian after they do something. Beltre is trying to tell him, no, you did not do that. Even though I just saw you did not do it that way. Here's what happened.
Either that or is that all you got?
Yeah.
You didn't see how fast I was when I scored?
You got to run faster than that. Elvis gone on strikes, but not before the Rangers come up with a run on 2 hits and nobody left. It's now a 2-1 Ranger lead. Mac, thanks for joining us. We will see you after the ball game on Rangers Live.
See you, Mac.
Sports Southwest is brought to you by the all-new Mazda 6. When you change everything, you change everything. The Rangers have changed a few things here tonight. They now lead at 2-1. Ian Kinsler drives in the go-ahead run with that single in the 5th inning. So Yu Darvish back out to the hill, now with an advantage at 2-1. And he will face Matt Dominguez to start things off. 1 ball, no strikes. Dominguez, a walk and a pop-out. 0 for 1 officially. 244 is the average for the young third baseman. Pop foul off to the right. And the count evens, and a ball and a strike. Dominguez 1 for 3 in last night's ball game. Last 36 games, he talked about him swinging the bat well. He has 6 homers and 19 RBIs. Well, he's hitting 296. This young man really solidifying himself in the Astros order. Astros, of course, on pace with 1 more loss now to equal last year's total of 107 losses. And they still have 6 games to play. The breaking ball that hangs inside, and the count goes to 3-1. The O'Cots warming in the Ranger bullpen. Darvish back to the plate. Belted down the left field line. It's hooking. It's off the foul pole, a home run. And Matt Dominguez has hit his 3rd home run against Yu Darvish this year. It is a tie ball game at 2-2.
Just one more example of you get behind in the count, come in with a fastball. What can happen? Doesn't always happen, but the potential is there. Dominguez got into a count where he could look for a fastball, and he was definitely ready for it. Got a fastball up out over the plate, right in his zone, and ripped it. Just barely kept it fair. Trying to get that down and away. Got it on the inside half of the plate. See you later.
And the first pitch to Chris Carter is fouled back. Now, this has been a troubling aspect for Yu Darvish, especially in the second half. The home runs after having a lead and then immediately, or almost immediately, giving it up. 5th, 6th, 7th innings, and it's happened several times now. Darvish being bitten by the home run ball. 1-1 pitch to Carter. Now 2-1. Carter 0 for 1, a sacrifice fly back in the 1st inning. Last time up, called out on strikes as he led off the 4th. Rip and a miss. It is 2-2. Crowd on hand here tonight. A good one on Yu Darvish K-counter bobblehead night. Carter a swing and a miss. 9 strikeouts now for Yu Darvish. 1 away, Trevor Crowe coming up.
Well, he misses a lot, but when he connects, they go a long way.
Crowe, a ground ball to second and a walk. One ball, no strikes. Crowe, as you can see, a .231 hitter. He was 2 for 2 in last night's ball game with a walk. And Darvish misses badly up and away. 2 balls and no strikes.
Well, Derek was over 70% strikes. Darvish is right around 56% right now. Going to throw his 100th pitch. Probably, you would think, be his last inning.
And ball 3 is high if he can make it out of this inning.
Well, I don't think Wash is going to mess around.
No.
He's got a great bullpen out there, and If he senses Darvish is tiring at all, he'd go to those guys out there.
3 balls, no strikes. Ball 4. And not really close to Crow. Second time that Crow has walked tonight, and Ron Washington on his way to the mound. And, well, when you're down to 5 games left or 6 games left, including tonight, you can't afford to wait around and see if he can straighten himself out. Now, Washington signals to the bullpen. That's going to do it for you, Darvish. He leaves with a score tied at 2, and Crow on first base, his responsibility. And Neil Kotz will be called in to face Brett Wallace or a pinch hitter. So pitching change underway here at Rangers Ballpark in Arlington. 2-2 the score. Back after this. Before we tell you about Neil Kotz, let's take a look at the Ford leaderboard this evening. We'll tell you about the matchups, the folks who have had the best records against divisional opponents. This goes back to the year 2000. Brewers and the Pirates. Brewers 14-1 against the Buccos, the A's or the Mariners, Red Sox, Orioles. Indians and White Sox, and Rangers and Astros this year. Both of them 15-2. Indians against the White Sox have that 15-2 advantage, and Rangers 15-2 over the Astros. Now, Neil Kotz coming on. He will not face Brett Wallace. Instead, it will be a pinch hitter, Brandon Laird, right-handed hitter, coming off the bench for the Astros to take over for Wallace. Laird, who was in last night's ball game at first base. And Kotz will whip through a fastball. It's 0-1. Laird 0 for his last 9 trips to the plate. And he's now down on the count, 0-2. Well, Neil Kotz trying to strand the runner at first. He inherited Trevor Crow at first with 1 out. There's the update on the White Sox-Cleveland game. Cleveland now tied in that ball game as the White Sox had a 9th inning home run. A check swing on the pitch that's high and no swing. Chris Conroy down at first making that call. Crow with pretty good speed at first as he steps off his lead. And the pitch popped foul behind home plate. That will be back into the seats. And we'll try it again at a ball and 2 strikes. Laird, who was recalled from AAA in the early stages of September, Player of the Month for AAA Oklahoma City for the Astros in the month of August. Going inside, that's in the dirt. Soto recovers, throws, but late to second. As Crow able to advance on the wild pitch.
The Crow got a great jump too. As soon as that ball was in the dirt, he anticipated and he was gone. The ball didn't end up that far away from Giovanni. He picked it up as quickly as he could, but as soon as that ball's in the dirt, there goes Crow.
Good anticipation, good
Very
aggressive
nice
base running. Well, the wild pitch now gets Crow into scoring position. 2-2, the count to Laird. And Laird just getting a piece of that pitch. And now the White Sox have taken a lead in that top of the ninth inning. They scored 2 and are still batting.
Wonder if someone else hit a home run. Keep it going. Viciedo and De Asa with home runs in the ninth inning. Now the Rangers have to take care of business.
And Laird pulls one foul. Still 2-2. Now, Yu Darvish went the first 5 1/3. About 4 hits, a home run. He walked 4 and struck out 9, so 8 base runners. 5 1/3. Get that home run ball, getting him again. Got him swinging upstairs. And Kotz gets the strikeout of Laird. 2 gone. And Carlos Corporan coming up.
Well, Laird gave a good battle up there. He fouled off a lot of sliders down and in. And finally, Neal fired a fastball up and away right by him. Pretty good battle, but Neal won that. He's got 1 more to go now. Get out of this man in scoring position jam.
Corporan, the switch hitter now, will turn around and bat from the right side against Neal Kotz. Corporan, a strikeout and a ground out tonight. Both those at bats were against Yu Darvish. And he gets fisted and grounds 1 to third. Beltre across the diamond on the mark. And that will do it. So Kotz comes in, gets the 2 outs. Strands a runner, but Astros tie the ball game on the leadoff Matt Dominguez home run. Bottom of the 6th coming up. Astros 2, Rangers 2. Brought to you by Sonic. Tonight's jackpot is worth $2,700 and dinner for 2 at Sonic Drive-In. Tonight the Rangers are hitting for Kenneth Key from Cleburne. And if a Ranger hits a grand slam this inning, Kenneth Key from Cleburne is going to win $25,000. You can register at any participating Sonic restaurant. Now Alex Rios will start things off. Rios, Beltre, and Pierzynski. our Sonic Slam inning. Brad Peacock misses with the breaking ball. It's a bit low for ball one. Rios twice has gone to right field. Nothing to show for it. He's 0 for 2. Rangers 2 runs on 5 hits. The Astros 2 runs on 4 hits. Fouled high in the air and out of play down the first base side. And the count is a ball and 2 strikes. Got him swinging. Boy, a big sweeping hook. And Brad Peacock gets his 6th strikeout of the night. And that's how the Rangers' 6th begins.
Well, you look at Brad Peacock and you see the assortment of pitches that he has. He's got a good fastball. You look at him and you can see several years down the road him being a mainstay in the rotation. The other guy that's not in the rotation right now, they sat him down because he reached an innings quota, Zach Cozart. He had 10 starts for the Astros and ended up with an ERA under 2. The Rangers saw him in a ball game. 46 hits in 60 innings, only gave up 3 home runs. And there's a couple of right-handed young power pitchers that are building blocks for the future. They've got a number of them they feel like that they're developing in the minor leagues. Just takes a while.
Yep.
Takes a while for one of these kids or maybe one of the other kids to develop as an ace, someone that can win 15 games. Just doesn't happen overnight, but that's what they're building for.
Beltre takes that breaking ball on 0-2. It's in the dirt. And the count moves to a ball and 2 strikes. Adrian line to center. Last time up he walked and came around to score on the Giovanni Soto base hit. Peacock back to the plate. And that's fouled away, so Adrian's staying alive. And a ball and 2 strikes.
I said Zach Cozart is Jared Cozart.
There's a drive high and deep to left field. Way back. Goodbye. Adrian Beltre in our Sonic Slam inning gets the Rangers on top 3-2, and Kenneth Key from Cleburne is $2,700 richer thanks to Sonic. Home run number 29, and they are all after Adrian. He'll take that.
Yeah, he's gonna smile whatever they do to him right now. That's a big home run right there.
A $2,700 winner, Kenneth Key from Cleburne. And Adrian Beltre getting that job done. And A.J. Brzezinski, a ground ball hit hard, but right at Altuve. For Beltre, that is his first home run since August the 28th.
It wasn't a terrible pitch. Barely a strike. He just golfed it out of the ballpark, and that's the sound and the trajectory pretty much said it all for Peacock. He knew that ball had a great chance to go out.
379 feet is where that came down. Out in the left field bleachers over the out-of-town scoreboard. Well, the Rangers on top now, 3-2. And Giovanni Soto up there, 2 for 2 tonight. A pair of singles and an RBI. 1 ball, 1 strike. Jeff Baker thoroughly unimpressed as Beltre.
Unfortunately, I don't think Beltre even saw it, Jeff.
No.
His shtick went completely unappreciated.
Because Adrian was impressed. He was happy about that one. And rightfully so. Peacock with a 2-1 pitch. And he fires a strike. It is 2-2. Brad Peacock has given up single runs in each of the last 4 innings. Big breaking ball call, strike 3. I think Giovanni knew it. That'll do it, but Adrian Beltre gets the Rangers back on top, his 29th home run of the year, and will go to the 7th. It's now the Rangers 3 and the Astros 2. Back on top now. It's 3-2. Adrian Beltre, 1 for 2 with a game-changing home run. His 29th of the year, 2 runs scored. Meanwhile, Matt Dominguez had a home run off of Yu Darvish in the 6th inning that momentarily tied the ball game and was the impetus for getting Darvish out of the ball game. So Darvish will not have a decision here tonight. Instead, Neil Kotz is now the pitcher of record for the Rangers as he gets set to go to work in the 7th inning. Brandon Barnes, the center fielder, will lead off. Then it's back to the top of the order for VR and Altuve. Rip and a miss by Barnes. He is down on the count 0-1. Barnes struck out both times that he faced Darvish tonight. Kotz, next pitch. Grounded by Beltre. Jump throw by Andrews. Not in time. Barnes just barely able to beat that throw. And what a play it was by Elvis to even make it that close.
Yeah, you could see the ball traveling all the way across the diamond, just hoping it was going to get there. You knew it was going to be close. And right at the end, Barnes closed on first base quickly enough to beat the throw. A beautiful play by Elvis. That's a long throw with a jump and about as close as you can get, but he gets the call at first base.
Boy, that is as close as you can see it at first base. No, the leadoff infield single. The tying run is aboard with nobody out. Jonathan VR, the leadoff man, is going to be up there now, turning around to hit from the right side against the lefty Kotz. We'll get one more look at that at first. Boy.
Yeah, it's almost a tie.
Kotz a check at first. In the dirt, it gets away, so down to second will go Brandon Barnes. That sharp breaking ball and down at the feet of VR. Soto couldn't do much with that. He did get part of his body and glove on it, but couldn't keep it out in front.
He just buried it right in the ground, and now you got a man on second. It's probably still a bunt situation right here. Nobody out, trying to move that man over to third base. First and third, way in for the Rangers.
Second wild pitch of the night for Neil Kotz. And the bunt shown again. The pitch high and outside. It is 2-0. Neil Kotz, who came into the ball game with Trevor Crow on and 1 out in the 6th inning. And you see Tanner Shepard's getting ready. Kotz had a strikeout, a wild pitch that advanced Crow to second, and then got a ground out of Corcoran to end the threat. But now he's given up an infield single, a wild pitch into second. 2-0 pitch is inside and low. It's 3-0 to the yard.
You don't really have to be too fancy right here. You know he's trying to bunt.
I think that's kind of what Ron Washington was thinking about right there.
Throwing him a 2-0 slider like you got a 4th place hitter up there.
And a fastball right down the middle. 3-1 now. We are checking with Dave Tremblay, who's going through the series of signs, relaying him to Brandon Barnes at second base and to the hitter, VR. Beltre and Moreland creeping in from the corner positions. 3-1 pitch is bunted, popped up. Soto coming back, has a play. No, not quite.
Hit the screen, about halfway up the screen on the way down. That's kind of the pitch. I think the best pitch you can throw right there is a high fastball and hope that he pops it up trying to bunt it. He did, but it went a little too foul. Now see what he does. 3 balls and 2 strikes. Will he try to bunt with 2 strikes? Or will Neil be able to get him and leave that man right at second base?
Barnes getting his lead from second. He's closely watched by Elvis Andrus. Kotz ready, the payoff pitch. Foul back. VR had a hack at it. And we'll try the 3-2 pitch again. Altuve waits to be next. Bo Porter seeing the tying run at second base for his club. Call strike 3 as Kotz nailed down the inside corner.
Yeah, now there's a good pitch. Pitch before it was up and away, and this one I don't think VR was ready for this pitch. Inside part of the plate. Neil nailed that inside corner and got the strikeout. Big strikeout. Unable to move that man to third base.
Well, now the entire Ranger infield will come into the mound, and checking with Neil Kotz and with Giovanni Soto. See what they want to do with Altuve. Altuve tonight is 2 for 3. You got first base open. The only problem is that Altuve is the potential go-ahead run, and Ron Washington is going to walk out to the mound. We'll see if he wants the right-hander Shepard to come in and pitch to Altuve, or whether he wants to have Kotz pitch to Altuve and maybe pitch around him. You got a left-hander following Altuve. That's Mark Krause, so he probably wouldn't see Krause anyway. And Skipper has made the decision. He wants to get Shepard into the ball game. So Neil Kotz leaves with a runner on base, his responsibility. 1 out here in the top of the 7th inning. Rangers on top, 3-2. And we'll come back to tell you about Rangers at TexasRangers.com. You can browse the largest online selection of authentic team gear, including official caps, t-shirts, jerseys, collectibles, and a lot more. Get your team gear straight from the source. Shop TexasRangers.com. Well, Tanner Shepard's on with the tying run at second base, 1 out here in the 7th inning. Rangers leading 3-2, and Shepard deals a strike to Jose Altuve. Altuve, a pair of singles. He has scored a run tonight, 2 for 3. Check swing on the breaking ball. He went around.
Yep, definitely.
And it is 0-2. Altuve, as you saw, 3 out of 6 in his career against Tanner Shepard. Right-hander, though, has the advantage here at 0-2. Nice stop by Giovanni Soto on the wide breaking ball. A ball and 2 strikes. Altuve with those 2 hits now up to 285 with the average. Shepard set, a check of second. And Altuve fouls it away to the right. Tanner okays the sign as Altuve waits. Another 1-2. In the air to right field, not very deep. Rios makes the catch, tagging to second, bluffing a move to third, and staying put is Brandon Barnes. That is out number 2. While Altuve skies out, and now Mark Krause will come up. Krause tonight is 1 for 2. Had a bad hop single in the 3rd, struck out in the 5th. Back in the 1st, he walked. Tanner Shepard's trying to strand that tying run at second base here in the 7th inning. Right-hander sets, and the first pitch. Boy, good fastball just inside for ball 1.
That'd be a nice escape by Tanner Shepard and Neil Kotz for that matter. Once the wild pitch put a man on second with no outs. VR failed to get the bunt down to move the runner to third. And Tanner's trying to get out of the inning right here by getting Krause.
Yeah, one of those is a strike, one of them's a ball.
I kind of vote for both of them being strikes, especially if I'm Tanner.
Yeah. Paul Elmo, the home plate umpire. Got it half right, I guess. Good breaking ball from Shepard. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Well, not only has Shepard had an outstanding fastball lately, he's also had good command of that curveball.
Yeah, definitely. Getting better.
The 1-2 pitch is on the way. Inside, a wild pitch, and that will send Barnes down to third base.
It's one of those balls you don't know how it kept from hitting the batter.
Looked like the hard breaking ball that went down to Krause's feet.
And Giovanni's able to block it, but now that might affect what kind of pitch you want to throw right here with a man on third.
Yeah, if you just buried that curveball, I'd probably hesitate to throw one down to the third again. The 2-2 now on the way. Krause has banged one right down at his right foot. And you can see the big left-handed hitter was geared up for that fastball. He was not going to get cheated there. Krause trying to walk that off, and It may be a couple days before that stops hurting. Jeffers setting the ideal spot right on that inside corner. The one exception, that breaking ball that went for a wild pitch. Jeffers readies himself again for the 2-2. Foul down a play to the left. Tanner tuning that up at 98. Outfield shading Krause well around to the left. See Craig Gentry only about 40 feet off the line. Couldn't swing, couldn't stop his swing on that high fastball. Jeffers a big strikeout, and the Astros gone in the 7th. They strand a runner on a hit. Stretch time at the ballpark. Rangers 3, Astros 2. Exciting and uplifting or deflating in September baseball, late September baseball. And Tanner Jeffers got pretty excited himself about that strikeout of Mark Krause.
Oh, he was throwing great, throwing 97, 98 miles an hour with a hard breaking ball. Got out of a big jam. Astros had man at second and nobody out, couldn't get him in.
It maintained the 3-2 Ranger lead as we go to the bottom of the 7th, and Kevin Chapman, the left-hander, has come out of the Astros bullpen to take over. He's facing Mitch Moreland, Craig Gentry, and Leonis Martin. Numbers for the 25-year-old left-hander. Big breaking ball that settles in the bottom of the strike zone. And Moreland now down to the count, 0-2. Mitch 0 for 2 tonight. The batting mark at .233 as he faces Chapman. Only left-hander the Astros have in their bullpen. And Moreland shoots one to center field. That is in for a base hit. So Mitch on an 0-2 pitch got a hanging breaking ball. So thank you very much. Gets his first hit of the night. And that's how the Rangers' 7th begins.
got that ball where he wanted to. It ended up being hung so up and in that Mitch kind of got jammed a little bit, looped it into center field. Pitcher's not too happy with himself. Trying to throw that breaking ball down and away. No balls and 2 strikes.
A 1 on, nobody out. Craig Gentry 1 for 2 tonight. He started off the Ranger fifth by singling, came around to score as Ian Kinsler drove him home. And Moreland getting a little calling card from Chapman. But Gentry at 267 now with the average. Over the last 10 days or so, he has really done a great job swinging the bat, getting on base and scoring runs. It's jammed there and fights it off foul down the right side.
Up Gentry up there, no balls and 1 strike. Mitch at first. Rangers trying to get a little insurance run.
Oh, and 1 the count. And a bunt back to Chapman. Thinks about second, but gets the out at first. Goes 1-4 on the sacrifice. And Gentry successfully moves Moreland into scoring position. And Leonis Martin coming up.
Yeah, that was a tempting one for Chapman because he charged that bunt quickly, got it right on top of it. And had to be thinking, maybe I've got to play at second base. So he decided to get the sure out at first base. Ball was bunted right back to him. Had a shot at it, but played it the safe way. Got 1 out, which you need to do.
Oh, 1 gone. Martin tonight, 1 for 1. A sacrifice bunt his last time up. An infield single in the 3rd inning. Got Moreland out there at second. It would be a very big run for the Rangers. They lead 3-2. The only thing you can do to pad a lead at this stage of the game would be something worth working for. Ball 1 to Martin. Leonis hitting at an even 260 as he faces Kevin Chapman. That breaking ball sweeps off the outside corner. It is 2-0. The Rangers 3 runs on 7 hits tonight. The Astros 2 runs on 5 hits. Neither club has committed an error. Kevin Chapman, the second pitcher used by Bo Porter, followed Brad Peacock. Peacock worked 6 very good innings. Now all 3 runs on 6 hits. 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. 2-1 now. Chapman staying with that breaking ball and finally got 1 in the strike zone. Moreland began the inning by singling to center. Sacrificed by Craig Gentry to second. The Rangers 249 their season average. To left center field. Playable out there. Brandon Barnes into the alley makes the catch. And Moreland will stay put at second. That is out number 2. It will bring up Ian Kinsler.
Second baseman Ian Kinsler.
Bo Porter headed out to the mound. He's got a right-hander in the bullpen, and he wants him to come in. He doesn't want Chapman facing Kinsler, or Elvis Andrus for that matter. So Chapman gets a couple of outs, but leaves with a runner at second here in the 7th inning. Another pitching change underway at Rangers Ballpark in Arlington. Rangers 3, Astros 2. Back after this on Fox Sports Southwest.
Game. It has to be Jade and Cooper. They're getting married on Saturday. Jade brought half the wedding party here tonight, seeing the Rangers for the very first time from Tahiti. And Jade, you guys all ready to go? I guess there's no turning back now that half the wedding party's here. Huh?
That's right.
All right, Cooper, what time do you get married Saturday?
Well, we're supposed to get married scheduled for 6 p.m., but if the Rangers are still in the pennant race, then it looks like we'll either push it up or push it back to 9 p.m. that night.
All right, good for you, Jade.
Yeah, perfect.
Congratulations. Here's the bag. Let's root the Rangers on for a win tonight. Buzz.
All right, Doctor, thank you. Yeah, depending on what time the Ranger game starts, that's going to determine when we get married. I like that. Got the priorities straight.
Hey, Pudge did that one year.
Yeah, that's right.
Supposed to get married at home plate, said, that can wait. I'm going to the big leagues.
Josh Zayed, the hard-throwing right-hander, deals a slider to Ian Kinsler, who fouls it off. They do strike one. Kins 1 for 3. Had that 5th inning single, driving in his 68th run of the year. Facing the 26-year-old right-hander, Josh Zayed. 22nd appearance of the year for Zayed. 424 earned run average. Opponents hitting 267 across the league. Kinsler gets fisted with a new fastball, and he fouled it off. Down on the count now, 0-2. Zayed came over from the Phillies, along with Jared Cozart, one of the men you mentioned, Tom. A good return. That was the Hunter Pence deal. Pence going to the Phillies back at the trade deadline of 2011.
Yeah, they might be glad they made that trade over the next couple of years when they see Jared Cozart develop. There's a chance to develop into a top of the rotation guy for sure.
A ball and 2 strikes. Moreland, the runner at second. Had a leadoff single and went to second on a sacrifice. Jonas Martin flied out for the second out. And now Kinsler trying to pick him up. In the dirt. And again, Corcoran having to go down to both knees to block that pitch. 2-2 to Ian. Kinsler 1 for 1 in his appearances against Zayed in the past. Checked his swing on the slider, and the count has gone full. Kinsler trying to either drive Moreland home or get on base along with him. Elvis Andrews waits in the on-deck circle. Zayed, a long look into Corcoran. Now time called. Corcoran pretty well set in his ways about what he wanted Zayed to throw, and Zayed was not sure he wanted to go that route. Moreland getting a pretty good lead at second base. Now Altuve, the second baseman, going to go over and see if he can't cut that down a little bit. Payoff pitch. And Kinsler just able to stay alive. Bo Porter, in his first year at the helm of the Astros, has had a lot of tough times and some very good times, according to him.
The catcher held the glove up as if he had the ball, but the ball wasn't in his glove. I'll show you, I got the ball. Whoops.
Another 3-2 pitch coming. Instead, Zayed, a little inside move as Moreland was getting off second base by quite a bit. Zayed, another long look. Now the right-hander is ready. Check of Moreland, 3-2 pitch. Call strike 3. Here's a slider that came in the front door, and Kinsler caught window shopping. Zayed retired, no runs a hit, 1 left. We're going to the 8th. Rangers 3, Astros 2. asked you all to become general manager. Who would you like to be signed if you were the general manager? 50% of you said Nelson Cruz. 17%. A.J. Brzezinski. 18% Matt Garza. 15% Joe Nathan. Appreciate your participation. We will pass those results on to John Daniels so he has the guidance necessary for him to go into the offseason. I think you pay attention to that. It's a pretty scientific
Well,
poll.
I don't think that, I'm just guessing, but I don't think John would be against having Nelly Cruz back.
If you'd been general manager and they had these polls and they came to you with the results, that would have weighed heavily on your mind, right? You don't disappoint.
Well,
those
we used a dartboard, so yeah, might as well let the fans do it.
Matt Dominguez pops up the 0-2 pitch, and Ian Kinsler waits for it to come down out of the night sky. I knew there was a reason why you got some of those trades that.
Well, we figured, if, at least with a dartboard, there was some skill involved.
Yeah.
No, that's not true. We didn't do that.
Whoever threw the best dart got signed.
Yeah, I don't know that you would ever make a decision based on a fan vote. In fact, I know you wouldn't. But at the same time, I think you have to value the opinion of your fans. They're the ones that make it possible for all of us to make a living in baseball. So I think you have to be aware of what they think. But obviously, you've got very skilled front office people. You've got scouts out in the field, and you put it all together, and that's the general manager's job, to decipher all the information and make a good choice.
Boy, 3 pitches, and Chris Carter becomes pretty quick work for Tanner Shepard, who gets his second strikeout. 2 gone.
Yeah, that one, he might have had a chance if that one hung, but once it started to break, he was pretty much done.
And Chris Carter, 3 more strikeouts tonight, and he's the leader in the clubhouse going into the final few games of the season. Trevor Crowe has walked a couple of times tonight. He goes after that first Shepard's offering. It is 0-1. Boy, Tanner Shepard's really tuning it up tonight again. He has had that fastball up in the zone, which makes it even tougher when you're throwing 97, 98 miles an hour.
Yeah, I think the one thing you love about Tanner, Buzz, it's a pennant race, and he's a young pitcher, not all that experienced, but here he is in a key situation in a 1-run game, trying to set it up for Joe Nathan out there with his best stuff, going as hard as he can and doing a great job. So he's rising to the occasion.
And showing you what fans really like to see, too, this time of year especially, the emotion.
Yeah.
You get that great reaction after the strikeout. Of course, you can't pitch with that kind of emotion for 162 games during the season. You end up in a straitjacket. Absolutely stark, raving, staring mad. But
if you've got it, now's the time to show it, right?
Exactly. Yeah, if you got it in your hip pocket, go ahead and bring it out here. 2-1 the count. That will reach the seats down the third base side. Adrian over to just make sure it's out of play. And the count evens at 2-2 to Trevor Crowe. Rangers leading 3-2. We told you the Cleveland Indians on a 2-run walk-off home run from Jason Giambi defeated the White Sox tonight 5-4. So the Rangers need to win to keep pace, stay a game behind the Indians. Tampa Bay leading 7-0 over the Yankees. That ball game now in the bottom of the 9th inning. Well, it looks like the race will stay the same with the exception of one fewer game to provide an outcome. That is if the Rangers can lock this down. It's 3-2 right now in favor of the Rangers. Fan down there making sure all 42,267 saw his magnificent one-handed play.
Well, if he didn't get it, the guy behind him would have.
Now, the guy behind him, though, didn't have a drink that he was worried about spilling.
Ooh.
Just missed that backdoor curveball, and the count has gone full. So Crow, the number 6 hitter, trying to prolong this inning, get aboard. And Brandon Laird would be next. The payoff pitch. That's coming right back toward us.
First one of the year.
That was right there.
I was not going to try to catch that. That's one you put your hand out and you get it pinned right there and break your finger.
Yeah, exactly.
Too late in the season for a broken finger.
Yeah, exactly.
That, and as one of my managers once told me, once you've got bad hands, you never lose them. He was talking about my hands.
Yeah.
So basically what I'm saying is I had no chance to catch that ball.
Now Trevor Crow works a very tough 2-out walk. That's his 3rd walk of the night. First walk issued by Tanner Shepard. Now Brandon Laird will come to the plate, and not before Mike Maddox goes out to the mound.
Well, the other thing we've seen is it looks like Trevor Crow runs pretty well too, so he's somewhat of a candidate to steal a base right here. Fortunately, Giovanni Soto has been throwing great from behind the plate. Crow was on first base when that wild pitch just got barely away from Soto and took second base. Be the 27th pitch for Tanner. Trying to get out of this jam.
Yeah, Mike Maddox with some instructions and information, most likely, about Brandon Laird, the man who came in as a pinch hitter in the 6th inning. Faced Neil Kotz and struck out. Well, Laird batting 169, facing Tanner Shepard. Got Crow at first, 2 outs. Rangers leading 3-2, and Shepard will pay attention to Trevor Crow over there. Now Shepard's ready. Long hold and the pitch. Low and outside for ball 1. One thing you need to be aware of if you're Tanner Shepard, it's fine to go ahead and keep the runner from trying to get a good jump, but your primary job right now is to go after the hitter. Hit Brandon Laird, and it won't matter what Crow does. One 1-0 pitch. Chopper foul. And sometimes you can get distracted so much, and yeah, it's the tying run at first base, but it's still going to take the hitter either getting a mistake or hitting a good pitch, one of the two. And if you can minimize that possibility, you're better off. Crow with a pretty good lead, and Shepard drives him back with a toss. Crow stepping that lead off as Shepard gets ready. The 1-1 pitch. Instead is a throw to first again. Soto flashing the signs out as Brandon Laird waits. And the fastball is high. It's 2 balls and a strike. Outfield playing Laird slightly around to the right. Pretty good gap in left center. Infield well around to the left against the right-handed hitter. And ball 3 is low and away. Well, Shepard's now in danger of having back-to-back walks. You got Carlos Corporan, the switch-hitting catcher, waiting to be next.
Yeah, this is a long outing for a setup reliever. This will be Tanner's 31st pitch.
The 3-1. That's a little bit foul down the left side.
Well, he was kind of in the same situation that Matt Dominguez was in. He was ahead in the count, looking for a fastball. He got a fastball. He just got a little bit out in front of it. Dominguez against Yu Darvish got out in front of it and hit the foul pole with a home run. So he's looking fastball all the way. Just got a little bit too anxious.
Well, the count is full. Crow will be off and moving to the next pitch. Base hit to left field. Crow not stopping at second. He's going to motor into third. So a walk and a single. And the Astros now have runners at the corners and 2 outs. And Carlos Corporan coming up.
Well, that's a very good at bat for Laird. Laird jumped on that fastball. The Rangers went to the breaking ball, and he still got the bat on it, even though he's a little out in front of it, and hit it into left field for a base hit. So the Astros are making this a very, very nerve-wracking ball game.
Now, Ron Washington out to the mound now. And as you mentioned, Tom, this is a very long outing for a short man, a setup man. In Tanner Shepard's case, 32 pitches. So he's going to depart. Jason Frazier will be asked to come in and get the final out of this 8th inning. He inherits runners at first and third. Pitching change again underway. We'll be back after this on Fox Sports Southwest. Includes the last two this Thursday and this Saturday, the 26th and 28th against the Angels. Sections 201 through 208 become the Kia K-Zone. Fans seated in the Kia K-Zone receive a complimentary T-shirt and K-card to celebrate strikeouts racked up by Rangers pitchers. Tickets start at just $32, and they can be found at TexasRangers.com/K-Zone.
For Houston, enter Carlos Corcoran.
Jason Frazier on here with runners at first and third. Rangers leading 3-2 in the 8th inning.
Well, Jason Frazier on to put out the fire. This will be Jason's 58th ball game. Job is pretty clear. Get Corcoran right here, first and third. Tying run at third base. Key moment in the ball game right here. I'll turn it over to Joe Nathan with a lead in the 9th. You got to get this guy.
Corcoran 0 for 3. He's grounded out twice and struck out. And the first pitch from Frazier, a fastball right down the middle. Got a pinch runner in the ball game at first base. Taking over for Brandon Laird, Jake Elmore. Well, he is carrying the go-ahead run here in the 8th inning. The tying run is at third in the person of Trevor Crow. Frazier sets the 0-1 pitch. 0-2.
Good fastballs.
Well, the crowd now getting into this tight spot here in the 8th inning. And the two managers looking on, and the teams going opposite directions for these two skippers. But right now it's as tight as you can possibly get it. And Frazier a little toss over to first just to drive Elmore back. Frazier last worked in the Kansas City series. Took the loss in that second game of the series. Or the first game, I should say. 0-2. Little looper into shallow center. On comes Martinez there to make the catch. And Ron Washington saying yes. And Jason Frazier, a sigh of relief. No runs, a hit, 2 men are left. Bottom of the 8th coming up. Rangers 3, Astros 2.
Here in the bottom of the 8th. Dana Larson here reminding you we've got Rangers Eye presented by Esurance coming up right after the game. Lots to discuss about this one. A nail-biter after last night's blowout victory. We'll hear from Wash and the key players in this one. Plus, we'll have highlights from the Tampa Bay game, that Cleveland walk-off, and also a near no-hitter in St. Louis by an Aggie, guys. We'll talk about all of that and much more coming up on the postgame show.
All right, Dana, thank you. Well, we head to the bottom of the 8th inning. It'll be Elvis Andrus, Alex Rios, and Adrian Beltre to face Josh Zeid. Boy, a pretty good job of pitching by both Shepherds and Jason Frazier in that top of the 8th inning.
Jason came in and jammed Corporon so much so that sure looked like that ball was going to bloop into center field.
Yeah, I almost had that started to be written down as a base hit.
Fortunately, it looks like Leonis wasn't playing quite as deep as he was with a man on first base, and he was able to come in and make the play.
Elvis drives that ball to right center field. On the run is Crow, just shy of the warning track. Stops and puts it away. And Elvis a long out, number 1 here in the 8th inning. The defensive changes as we head to the bottom of the 8th inning. Mark Krause moves in from left field to take over at first, and Jake Elmore, who came in as a pinch runner, takes over in left field. So the outfield of Elmore, Barnes, and Crow for the Astros. 1 out. Alex Rios 0 for 3 tonight. Rios a couple of fly balls to right and a strikeout, following up his cycle last night with an 0 for 3 thus far. Zeid, the 26-year-old out of Connecticut. That pitch chopped foul. Zeid in high school was the Connecticut Player of the Year in his senior year. Went on to Vanderbilt and then transferred to Tulane. Drafted by the Phillies and signed with them. Next pitch wide. 1 ball and 2 strikes. And Joe Nathan getting ready, the 40 save man for the Rangers. Finally got back to that 40 saves after the Tommy John surgery a couple years ago. 1-2 pitch. Ground ball wide at third, off the glove of Dominguez and out into left field. Rios, a big turn, but he hangs on there with his first base hit of the night. And I'm going to venture to say he won't be at first very long.
No, he's either going to be at second or back in the dugout, one or the other. And the way he's been stealing bases, I'm betting he'll probably stay at second.
Yep. Now let's take a look at the AT&T U-verse rewind. The difference in the ballgame. Adrian Beltre slamming his 29th home run of the year into the left field seats above the out-of-town scoreboard. That came off Brad Peacock in the 6th inning. And he is up here in the 8th inning trying to get Alex Rios home from first. Well, Beltre now with 29 home runs, 90 RBI, right on the button. Rios, a pretty good lead. Alex with already a career-high 39 stolen bases. And he's trying to join Elvis Andrus at that 40 plateau. Now Corcoran going to go out and have a chat with Zide. Corcoran has taken over the majority of the coaching chores since Jason Castro had some physical issues. Max Stassi, as we mentioned, had been on the disabled list, just came off, so he hasn't been able to pick up any of the slack behind the plate. So Corcoran trying to work with a whole slew of pitchers that he was not familiar with at the start of this season. Rios aboard with a one-out single. Rangers now with 8 hits tonight. They lead 3-2 as Beltre waits. Inside will drive Rios back. Rangers with a stolen base earlier in the ballgame. Leonis Martin swiped second. And Beltre now tired of waiting. Zide comes set. And the first pitch on the inside corner. 0-1 the count to Beltre. Zide huffing and puffing his way into this situation in the 8th inning. There goes Rios. The pitch is a strike. The throw to second is high. It's into center field. Rios is going to third. Well, Alex Rios with his 40th steal of the year, a new career high, and on the error advances to third base.
Well, I was wrong. I said he's either going to be at second or back in the dugout. He's at third. Even better. We got one out and bring in that run with a sacrifice fly.
The first error of the ball game charged to Carlos Corcoran on that throw. So the infield for the Astros coming all the way into the cut of the grass. 0-2 the count to Beltre, and again Adrian disgustedly asked for time as he's tired of waiting.
Zide gets to the mound to look for the sign pretty quick, but then he takes about a day and a half to get the sign.
The 0-2. Hitting. Fastball up and in. Beltre headed toward first, and he'll toss the bat away. Took a long look into toward the Astros dugout. I don't know that he was looking in there necessarily. And Adrian saying to Jamie Reed, go on back to the dugout. And Adrian not real thrilled with Josh Zide. And Bo Porter on his way to the mound. Well, Adrian had gotten upset on a few pitches as Zide was taking too long and backed out 3 times in that at bat. And Zide finally lost control of an 0-2 pitch.
Well, the catcher's set up in. He's trying to throw it in. The ball got him in the arm at about 95 miles an hour. So that'll cause you some big-time pain. AJ up there now, still a man on third base, and only 1 out, trying to get that insurance run in, make it a 4-2 ball game.
Adrian's still a little perturbed. He's not in the mind-reading business, so he doesn't really care whether Zide meant to hit him or not.
No.
Talking to Mark Krause over there, and kind of a half-hearted smile.
Adrian can only stay mad so long.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's Brzezinski, and AJ twice tonight has grounded to second base.
I bet you goes hard into second base if there's a chance to break up a double play, though.
I would agree with you. I think that if you're Altuve or VR, you want to be out of the area.
Come across that bag quick.
VR, the young shortstop, and of course Altuve, the young second baseman. Brzezinski waiting. Again, Zide. You think that Corcoran was giving him...
there's nobody on second base. It can't be that hard to get a sign.
Unless he's giving signs in a foreign language. I don't know what the problem is. 1-0 the count to Brzezinski. Either that or Zide throws a lot more types of pitches than we're aware of.
Maybe.
Well, he has whatever sign that was from Corcoran. Ground ball up the middle to second for 1, back to first. A very nicely turned double play, and that will do it for the Rangers. No runs, a hit, and 1 man left. We're going to the 9th. It's Joe Nathan time in Arlington. 3-2 Texas. Fox Sports Southwest is brought to you by the Built Ford Tough Sales Event at your Texas Ford dealer. Ford is the best in Texas. By AT&T UVerse TV. Check availability at 1-800-PIC-ATT. Rethink possible. And by Progressive. Visit Progressive.com today. Nice crowd on hand here tonight. A little over 42,000. Have seen the Rangers come back with 3 single runs in the middle of the ball game, and they made those stand up as Joe Nathan enters here in the 9th inning to try and close out the game for his 41st save.
Well, great numbers for Joe, just like a lot of the relievers. 63rd game. Hope it's his 41st save. Rangers couldn't get that insurance run, but Joe's got to make a one-run lead stand up right here.
Brandon Barnes leading things off. The number 9 man takes ball 1. Barnes tonight, 1 for 3, had an infield single in the 7th inning. Rip and a miss. It's a ball and a strike. Joe Nathan last worked on Saturday in Kansas City. Perfect inning, struck out 2. Got his 40th save and 43 opportunities. Pitch fouled back, and he's ahead of the count. And a ball and 2 strikes. Yu Darvish will have no say in the outcome of this ball game. He worked 5 1/3 tonight, and struggling a bit, but that old home run ball kind of jumped up and bit him one more time. Rangers gave him a lead, and Matt Dominguez hit one off the foul pole to tie it up in that 6th inning. Forced him out of the game. The 1-2 from Nathan. Got him swinging. Slider down and away. Barnes is out number 1.
Third strikeout for Barnes on that slider, well located right on the outside corner. Fastball set it up. Good start to the 9th inning. Top of the order now.
And Jonathan Villar now will face Joe Nathan. Villar 0 for 4 tonight. A couple of strikeouts and a couple of groundouts. Villar 0 for 1 against Nathan in previous matchups. He takes that off-speed pitch in for strike 1. AT&T Uverse TV tells you we'll be right back here tomorrow night, the finale of this 3-game set, the Rangers and the Astros, coming to you at 7 o'clock on Fox Sports Southwest. Rip and a miss. And Nathan now ahead 0-2. Principals tomorrow night, by the way, Martin Perez and Dallas Keuchel, a couple of very talented young pitchers, left-handers.
Astros have struck out 14 times tonight.
1 ball and 2 strikes.
According to my calculations, anyway.
I believe you are.
I got to be within one. Within one.
That's
anyway.
correct. That's what I have too. 9 for Darvish, 2 for Koch, 2 for Sheppers, and 1 for Nathan so far. Maybe the biggest out of the night, though, gotten by Jason Frazier in that 8th inning. Just off the outside corner. Boy, Nathan trying to paint the black part of the plate and just missed. Two and 2. The 38-year-old to the wind, and the pitch low and outside. It's a full count. Well, Villar trying to get aboard with 1 out here in the 9th inning. He'll be followed by Jose Altuve. Nathan okays the sign. Target set, low and away. Payoff pitch. Fouled away. Villar back in there. Nathan got ready to throw his 11th pitch of the inning. 1 out, bases empty. Another 3-2. Got him swinging.
Put everything he had on that fastball. Said, here it is if you can hit it. 15th strikeout for the Astros.
Villar punching out for the 3rd time tonight.
That's all Joe's got right there. He just aired it out.
Now the only thing standing between the Rangers' victory, Joe Nathan's 41st save, Jose Altuve. Oh and 1 on the foul ball. Altuve 2 for 4. A pair of singles. Also grounded out and flied out. Altuve 0 for 2 in the matchups against Nathan. Crowd on their feet at Rangers ballpark. 0-1 pitch. Pop foul, and it's 0-2 to Altuve. This little guy doesn't let much pass by him when he's swinging the bat. Everybody's up. Right now, that's the entire Joe Nathan fan club here at Rangers Ballpark. Nathan's 0-2 pitch. Altuve singled in the first, singled in the fifth. Nathan trying to get him to wrap up this ball game. Joe to the wind, the 1-2. Out of the way, and Altuve's bat went over in the camera bag. Look out, guys.
That almost got that kid Dave Curlis.
Yeah.
Dave's all right. Man, it's one thing to have to worry about a foul ball, but now the bat.
Glasses you can replace. The stuff that's behind him, you can't.
Wow.
Now, Altuve able to get more stickum on that bat. Rangers trying to win back-to-back games for the first time since late August. Nathan to the wind, another 1-2, and another foul ball. But for being a man that's kind of short in stature, Altuve may have the longest arms I've ever seen. He can reach pitches in the other batter's box.
Well, he's hitting 370 this month, so he's also swinging a hot bat.
Brown again getting behind Nathan. Check swing,
Yes,
did he
did.
go around? No, he did not.
I don't know about that.
Now the appeal down to first base, and Chris Conroy. Not a pleasing call to the skipper, Ron Washington. Giving Conroy a little bit of what for. It evens the count to Altuve at 2-2.
I thought he swung at it. Tough to tell.
Altuve back in. Soto with a sign, the 2-2 pitch. Popped him up. This ball comes down, the Rangers win. Moreland's got it. Joe Nathan. That's his 41st save. The Rangers make it 2 in a row over the Astros. A 3-2 final tonight as Nathan saves the 41st and Neil Kotz gets the win in relief. And the Rangers staying alive in the wild card as they keep pace with both the Indians and the Rays. Now the Rangers with their 86th win of the year. Their 41st here at home, which ensures them of a winning season at home and on the road this year. There's the updated wild card standings. You see Tampa Bay a game lead over Cleveland, and the Rangers a game back of Cleveland. So Adrian Beltre cranked his 29th home run of the year, a game winner, getting high fives from all of his teammates in that line coming off the field. Now the Rangers win it. 42,267 on hand here to see this finale.
He went with his fastball on the last pitch. Altuve had a good swing at it. He just got underneath it and popped it up. Nick squeezes it. Ron Washington and Jackie Moore get their end of the win hug. And the Rangers go to tomorrow needing a win again.
Let's head down to the field where Emily Jones has the closer on hand. Em?
Yeah, 41 saves, but not much of a voice. Joe, in as few words as possible, how big was this?
A huge win, especially when we saw Cleveland at a 2-run walk-off. So made it important to try and stay with them, stay pace, and obviously a tough game. Well played on both sides, so good to get a win here.
Offense scratched out a couple of runs. Bullpen huge in this one.
Nice. Started with you, Darvish. We passed the ball along. Huge outing by Sheppers coming in and getting some big outs for us. everybody stepped up, got some outs, and like we said, a big win for us. We needed it. Got to come here tomorrow and take care of business again.
Just one more thing, Adrian Beltre, nice to see him get his home run groove back. Got a little fun treatment I'm sure you guys saw there in the dugout.
Yeah, it's always nice when Adrian's swinging the bat well. So hopefully it's good signs for us that everybody's starting to get hot. And you never know. You make the playoffs and you're hot, you're a dangerous team.
Joe, thanks for the time. We appreciate it. Joe Nathan with his 41st save of the year, guys. We'll send it back up to you.
All right, Emily, thank you. The Rangers walk out of here with a 3-2 win tonight. And Dana Larson, Mark McLemore will be back to wrap things up for you right after this on Fox Sports Southwest.